This is Rob, and I am joined by Portia and Dawn, and this is episode number 11 of the Metanoia Effect. And if you're brand new to the show, metanoia means like a grand rebirth, like something just a major mindset shift. You know, it's complete transformation in your life. And the three of us, we have three different styles. We have three different points of view and three different perspectives. And today we're going to be talking about who are you when pressure arrives. Because one of my favorite quotes is from Martin Luther King Jr., and I hope I don't butcher it, where he says, the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in calm, but rather where he stands in chaos and controversy. Right? Because everybody can be stand up when everything is going well, when there's plenty of water, there's plenty of food, your car is running great, you have a great paying job, you love all your coworkers, you love your boss. But what happens when the storm comes? Are you still that same person? Are you able to maintain that focus, maintain your original personality? Or do you shift into someone completely? Right? So before we get rolling, I want each of you to answer that question. Who are you when pressure arrives? Give me the 1 minute version. Portia, you're up.
Dag. Okay. When pressure arrives for me, really, it just depends. And I'll just start with my mom. When my mom was dying, we knew what my mom wanted from when I was 15 years old, that she wanted to be cremated. So once she actually finally took her last breath and that was it, I said, okay, we get her cremated, we keep going. So I think for me in that situation, it was easier because I already knew what my mom's final wishes were. Where if we didn't, and everybody was scrambling, then it would have been pure chaos. But because I already had set my focus, I knew I was going to honor what she wanted. We kept it moving.
Right. Dawn.
I've gotten better at this as I've gotten older, but when pressure's happening or chaos or anything, conflict is going on around me, I get very calm because I always think if I lose my stuff, I'm not going to be able to deal with what I have to deal with. So for whatever reason that is, I am able to keep myself calm and get through whatever it is that's going on, whether it's like a physical threat or something that's personal or, any kind of like an argument. I just like always keep my wits about me. And again, that takes practice, but I've been getting better at it as the older I get.
I want to add to that. Go ahead, Robert.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
What also helps me too, Dawn, is especially when I feel like things are crumbling down around me, the sky is raining, both dogs, cats, frogs, all the things that don't speak, but they will if you step on them. I go to gratitude. I go to my gratitude and I'm like, okay, what can I be grateful for in this moment? Everything is not riding smooth sailing, but I'm going to find the gratitude in, okay, I'm grateful that right now, my microphone has completely died on me and I have recordings in an hour. What's going to be my improvisation strategy? So that's where I go a lot of times now, but it took time for me to build that. To your point, Dawn, I'm the same way. It took me a little time because it used to be I'm bawling my eyes out. I don't know what to do, or I would freeze. Where now I've built that muscle to start to take some sort of action, even if it's messy.
Yes. So for me, who am I when pressure arrives? Like I've always said, I'm a competitor. And this is just recent. This is maybe about an hour ago. I was having a discussion with someone and it started to get a little messy, right? And the first step is to just back off and just breathe, right? And just breathe. Like this doesn't have to be ugly. And then we continue the conversation and it starts to get a little bit messy again. So in our gym here, we actually have two different sides. So the side I'm in now doesn't have them, but on the other side, there's a basketball hoop. So I was like, let's go shoot hoops for a little bit. And they were like, wait, what? I'm like, let's go shoot hoops, let's bring down the temperature, and then we'll pick the conversation back up, right? And it worked. Did everything leave completely resolved? I mean, no, but at least it didn't, that conflict, the anger didn't overtake. I think a lot of people struggle with that. There's a local shake shop that I go to, and I was telling the barista there, we were just talking about conflict resolution, and she was like, "Oh, I don't think I could do that. I would just fly off the handle." And I was like, "But why? Like you don't have to, because then you end up throwing insults, you end up veering off topic, and now it's about feelings and your tone of voice and all this, and you're not even talking about the topic anymore." Right? So let's get into the first question, and we're gonna start off with a bang here. So pressure doesn't reveal whether you're good enough. It reveals what you've trained yourself to believe when the outcome matters. And I picked this question because this is what I preach to my athletes. It's like, it doesn't matter how hard you train in the gym if you can't handle it on the day of the meet, right? So it's like, I train them physically and I train them mentally. Okay, so we'll start with Dawn on this one. So it reveals what you've trained yourself to believe when the outcome matters. So expand on what you just said. So when that pressure comes, that storm comes, how do you get through it?
A lot of times it depends on what the situation is, right? So if I'm sitting at my computer and I'm getting frustrated because technology's not working, we've all been there, right? I will take a breath, I'll walk away. Walk away. If you start feeling frustrated, walk away. And I've told this story before many times, but when I was in Sierra Leone, we were on Rakupa Wharf, we were doing a cleanup there, and we had moved the girls off of the wharf. They had a house now and they all had beds, and we came back to that area to do a big cleanup because it was like very, very messy and I wanted it to be clean for the people that lived there. Well, I was tired, I was hungry, I was thirsty. I'd been in Africa for like a couple weeks already, and we got there late the night before, and this lady comes, and I had cash and I was giving out some cash to thank people for going over and above and helping us, and we bought some cookies for them. We were giving out cookies. Well, we ran out, and she came and she was yelling at us. And I remember thinking in my head, I was like, "Oh, look, lady." But because I was in Africa, I said, "Who do you choose to be?" And that was the way I was able to deal with that situation with grace. And I let her finish yelling at us. And I got up, I hugged her, and I said, "I am so sorry we ran out." And I felt like so powerful in that moment because I got to choose who I wanted to be. I didn't let her make me react in a way that I would have looked back and said, "Oh God, you shouldn't have yelled at her." Or you shouldn't have said the things that were happening in your mind out loud.
Right before you go, oh, I'm sorry, were you done?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so right before you go, Portia, I just want to touch on what you said, Dawn, is the money sentence. Not let her make me react. That's the part that a lot of people don't understand. And that's what I shared with the woman at the shake shop. I said, you don't have to give people control over your emotions. And so I said to her, I said, "Watch this." And I just stared at her and didn't say a word. And I was like, "How do you feel right now?" She's like, "Very uncomfortable." I was like, "See?" And I didn't say a word. I said, silence is powerful. I was like, you don't have to give a react, because if somebody's saying insulting things to you or they want you to respond, right? If you could just stand there and just absorb it, there's nothing else they can say, because you already that's like a boxer getting hit with a haymaker and he just smiles. Then the other person is like, "Crap, I just took his best shot," and he smiled at me. It's the same thing with words. Well, Portia, go ahead.
No, Dawn, to your point, I remember that story, Dawn, and I think many of us have been in that situation where we've put our all into a day. We're hot, sweaty, like we've just ran through a goat farm, and we want to be done. And then here comes someone who obviously, unfortunately, missed out on things, and we're the brunt of their frustration. So I had that happen recently with a client of mine where we couldn't see eye to eye. Now, I know I am not always the easiest to work with. I'll be honest, that Sagittarius energy comes out sometimes and I'm not having it. But in this moment with this client, I said, "You know what? I'm going to respond differently. I'm going to let them vent. I'm going to let them talk, and I'll wait." And that's what I did, because what came out of me listening to them, they were grieving, and their grief was coming out as projection because nobody heard them. They have couple grown kids, a husband. They're also an entrepreneur, a very successful one. But they had a lot of things pent up. Like they had just lost one of their parents. They also had lost a grandkid. So there was a lot that they had built up that it came out. And I said, you know what? I'm glad that I took time to listen instead of reacting as they're swearing all the things, because sometimes that's what they just need, is for you to listen without the anticipation to respond. And that's why I'm glad I did it, because I learned a lot where I was able to come back to Portia like, oh, she's grieving. She needs someone to listen right now. She doesn't need someone to give her more instruction or another assignment. She just needs someone to hear her. So I know it's not always easy, but I'm glad in that sense that I was reminded of that. My mom always used to say, you don't know the shoes that somebody else is walking in. And I never understood that until I got older, because my mom would always prioritize people in my mind who weren't genuine. And I would ask her sometimes, Mommy, help me understand. Why are you doing this to these people who clearly they're not good people? And my mom would always say, Portia, you don't know the shoes that they're walking in.
Facts. Yeah, that reminds me of a woman that I ran into, but I met her at an event that I was emceeing. And she introduced herself as a stage 4 cancer survivor, right? And so, we're going back and forth for a bit. And then finally I asked her, I was like, why did you introduce yourself like that? I was like, being a cancer survivor isn't who you are. I was like, it's something you went through. And she got super offended that I said that. Like super offended, to where I had to talk her off the ledge for the next hour. And to your point, I stopped the back and forth and I just let her tell her truth. And then at the end, I was able to help her reframe it, but like, had I just kept going with the back and forth, like we may not have gotten there. I had to just stop and just know what that journey did to her. Cause you hear stage 4, what are you thinking? My time is coming up. So she was dealing with that fear, right? With that fear of transitioning. And that's what was fueling those feelings. And I told her, I said, just call yourself a survivor. Like, you don't have to say stage 4 cancer. You're just a survivor. It's like you get the chance to wake up every day and go after your dreams. I just went down that motivational speaker rabbit hole with her. And at the end, we hugged it out. But, we got there, though, because I took the time to listen. You guys want to add anything else on this first one?
I just agree with everything both of you said.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So let's move on to number 2. How much of what we call confidence is actually confidence? And how much is confidence that depends on everything going our way? I'm going to go last on this one because I want to hear what you two have to say first. So who wants to go first?
Portia does.
Okay, I've been voluntold. So voluntold, literally, I've been voluntold. So I'm gonna come at it from this angle. When I was in TV, one of the things that I did was be behind the scenes. I had a choice between picking the job that I wanted to when I first applied, where most people, they just go straight for whether they're on-air talent or producer or whatever. I went the producer route because a part of me didn't feel like I was good enough to be on-air talent, even though I had the skill. So at the same time, I'm grateful that I still went that route, because even though I didn't get my on-air shine during that period of time, the skills that I learned in TV that I still use today, being deadline driven, being able to analyze different stories very quickly when I get pitches for my show, right? Being able to work around production blips, right? Dawn, you brought up when your computer says you're fired, your internet's not working, all the different technological things that come up where you have to learn to pivot. And that's the one thing I'm glad that I learned, was being able to pivot. And I would say as far as confidence goes, I think confidence is an energy thing. I think we have that, I like to call it the scale, where sometimes you have it all the way and then other times it goes down. But I think that's also a part of life, the roller coaster of life, where you pivot, you lose your voice, you find it. You lose your voice, you find it. But that also is the beauty in life, because we're all students. I always love the quote from the book that my great grandmother read, which is The Game of Life by Florence Scovel Shinn. And it says, man is not your enemy, man is not your friend, for man is your teacher. Meaning that everything is meant for you to learn something from.
I love that. And Portia, I love that you ended that with that, because what I was going to say is I think when things aren't going perfectly and our way, that is where we build confidence. When we get through the things, the difficulties, the challenges. So as you said, everybody's life is going to have its ups and downs, the roller coaster. How do we get through it? And building your confidence is by going through the hard things. If life was just easy all the time, I don't know that we would have as much confidence, because we didn't overcome something. And I think in the overcoming is where we build that muscle, that confidence muscle.
All right. So to me, one thing I say in the gym slash athletic coaching world is confidence is proficiency. That's what that is, right? If you get me up here to talk about overcoming obstacles, I can speak all day. If you ask me to speak on astrophysics, not my lane, right? Because I'm not proficient in astrophysics, right? So I say in here all the time, you are only good at what you work on. That's it. So when I'm working with my athletes, like my shot putter may have the confidence in the shot put. What if I asked them to go run the 100 meters, right? The person didn't change any, right? But in that 100 meters, they're not going to have that same level of confidence. So confidence is completely tied to proficiency. Like when I first started speaking, I didn't really know what to talk about. I was trying to emulate other speakers. Like it wasn't until I just started being my own self, then my confidence as a speaker grew. You put me on the basketball court, I don't need any external motivation. I set foot on the court and I am out for blood. Right? I've been playing basketball since I was like 5 or 6, right? And so that combined with my competitive spirit is what drives my confidence. But there's no such thing as a confident person, because it depends on the circumstance. Because again, if you have someone who's a great math teacher, and then you ask them to go speak at a math conference, and they're not used to public speaking, right? So confidence is more tied to proficiency than anything else, to me. You guys want to add anything else to that?
I would just say that, like, nobody's good at everything, right? But you can be confident even though you're not good at something. Like, I would not be able to play basketball against you, Robert, 100%, admit that. But that doesn't mean I can't be confident in myself. I'm just maybe not confident in my basketball game, but I still have confidence in me.
Dawn, I'll play defense with you against Robert. You got me. You got me to play. I was going to say, to Dawn's point, I agree, because even though you might be an excellent mathematician where you understand better than us the Fibonacci sequence or geometry or any of those other, right? The Fibonacci sequence, anybody remember that? But you might understand that better than most of us. But yet public speaking is not your thing. Being in a lab and writing different equations on a board is. So I think in that regard, I think that's the multi-dimensional parts of us where we're proficient in this one lane, and that's okay. But some people are able to pivot their skills and find their lane in public speaking, even though they may not have never been in that lane either. So they're able to teach you things based on their expertise, but they're also able to entertain also, because public speaking, as we all know, is an art. It requires you to deliver an experience to people who are watching you.
Okay. And so my only pushback would be, I can take you both 1-on-2 in basketball.
Okay, Dawn. Dawn, bring the boys. Dawn, bring the puppies so that way we can distract Robert.
Okay.
All right, let's move on to the third. When pressure reveals a version of yourself you don't like, is that a failure or an invitation to become someone different? So I'll go first on this one. My thing is, it depends how long you stay that other person. Because we all have the 5 major emotions, happy, sad, indifferent, angry, and whatever the 5th one is, right? We all have it. So it could all rear up at any time. Just like I said earlier, I was a little agitated, but I was able to pull myself out of it. So like when that happens, I think it just depends how long do you stay there. And I'll use one of the track athletes as an example. It's this young girl from another school. She was seated first in the high jump, and coming in, she had a couple misses early, and she absolutely self-destructed, like completely self-destructed. So it's okay to miss, be frustrated that you missed, but you got to be able to pull yourself out of it. And she wasn't able to pull herself out of it, and she ended up self-destructing. And I've seen that happen over and over, which is why I did my Built for Pressure program to try to help kids deal with that moment. Because it's not a matter of if you become someone different. There are moments where initially one of those five feelings is going to show up, but it's a matter of how quickly can you pull yourself back to your own core values. Who wants to go next?
I would love to, because I love this question. So I just told the story about what happened in Sierra Leone on the wharf. A few months prior to that, there was a situation where somebody was yelling at me, and I didn't respond with grace and love and kindness. And I wasn't like horrible. I didn't hit anybody, and I didn't. But as that lady was yelling at me on the wharf, I flipped back to that situation saying, I don't want to look back at how I respond right now and say, I wish I wouldn't have done that. I wish I wouldn't have responded that way. So it invited me to become someone different and choose how I want to show up every time. And then again, that gave me so much more power moving forward in all aspects of my life, because nobody can make me not be who I want to be. No matter what it is that they're doing or saying or behaving, I still get to show up as the person I want to be. And that is a very powerful place to be. And again, learning from something that happened in the past where I'm like, I did not show up as my best self there. I don't want to do that again. So it is an invitation, and I think it's a beautiful one.
I call that being emotionally bulletproof. Like that. All right,
Yeah.
Portia, you're up.
Well, to your point, Dawn, I know for me, especially when I get really annoyed, it shows. I mean, my face shows when I'm not happy. It comes through my voice. And the way I see it, honestly, if somebody feels the brunt of my wrath, it was supposed to come out. That's how I feel sometimes, because there's a reason why I've been holding this in for a while. Now, is it right that I took my anger out on this person? Probably absolutely not. But at the same time, there was a lesson that I needed to learn in that. And also it depends on how they responded. I'll use this as an example. I had another client where we had a disagreement. And one time I yelled at them. I said, "What are you doing?" Literally, "What are you doing?" I didn't say a swear word or anything. And they stopped. And they're like, "Portia, you're right. What am I doing?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "You're about to drive yourself off a cliff trying to keep up with what you're seeing on social media when it comes to your own personal brand." I said, "You hired me for a reason. So are you going to trust in my direction, or are you going to keep trying to do things the same way you've always done them?" I said, my soul dad said it best. If I do what I always did, I'll get what I always got.
Yep.
And I said, how many times are you going to get the same results because you keep trying to do it your way when you've already seen the proof in the pudding by working with me? So I see it from both aspects. I also think that we tend to put anger as a bad thing. But there was a quote that I heard years ago about anger, is that anger is that voice that tells you deserve better. In some circumstance, I've heard that before. And I'm like, yeah, If my anger comes out, that's okay. As long as I'm not like running to people's houses and doing crazy stuff, that's okay. But as long as it's coming out and as long as it's not projecting something terrible, I don't see anything wrong with it. But at the same time, I
Well,
do think, go ahead, Dawn.
I think that you can disagree with somebody even if you're
Yes.
angry and still
Yeah.
be respectful, because you could have
Yes.
like used a lot of swear words, you could have called her names, but speaking your truth is not being mean. I think
Right.
speaking your truth is necessary, but there's a way you can do it in a way that you show up as your best self.
Yeah. And Dawn, that's the major point too, is so many people, they think that when you respond with a more elevated tone, then you're offended. Then they should be offended. Kind of like what Robert said, like, why are my reactions dictating how you respond or your attitude dictates how I respond? No, it shouldn't. Because at the end of the day, I'm going to respond to the way that I need to get my point across. I don't have to be disrespectful, but most people, it's easier for them to go that route instead of taking time to really digest what you're saying before they respond.
See, sometimes you need it just for self-advocacy, right? Because I was
Yes.
locked out. I was locked out of my business email for a few days, and I contacted GoDaddy support. They're like, "Oh yeah, there's an issue here, and it'll be done tomorrow." So then tomorrow comes, then the next day comes, then the next day comes, and then I contact support again. They're like, "Oh, fill out this form. It'll be done in 2 to 5 days." And I was like, "No, I've already done this. I'm like, this will be done today." And this is through tech support, and the person's doubling down, like, you need to fill out the form. So I cut him out and I called them, and I wasn't disrespectful at all, but they knew I was agitated. I'm like, this is my business email. Like, I'm not trying to get BJ's coupons here. I'm like, I need to have access. My clients are sending me stuff, possible speaking opportunities, and I was like, this needs to be done today. And it was so important, the call spilled over into my 9 o'clock class. And so I told them, I was like, guys, this is getting resolved today. I said, so the way the circuit that I had set up didn't really require me barking orders. So it worked out perfectly. But I doubled down because they tried to tell me it was something on my end. And I was like, I'm locked out. I said, I didn't lock myself out. I said, you guys need to figure out on your end what went on or what's going on. And I ended up getting it resolved. But to both of your points, like, I never came unglued. I wasn't calling names, but I was just firm that this is going to be done today, and we got it done. So good stuff.
I had a situation like that too, Robert, once. Dawn, you're familiar with it because mine went on for about a week. No, actually, it was a month. It was a whole month, and I didn't even know that the issue was there. And I literally, funny story, I ended up resolving the issue on my own without the company. Dawn, you remember what I'm talking about? I did. I ended up doing it on my own, and they sent me this email like, "Oh, we resolved your issue." And I said, "Who did?" Because I think your new employee is me. Thank you.
Love that. Yeah. Let's get to this last one here. Got a few minutes left. It'll be all right if we go over some. What if the pressure you're trying to escape is actually preparing you for the life you're asking for? And I'll go first with this one. And again, I'll use the sports analogy. So I'm working with a middle school girl, and her personal best was 4'4". So when you jump 4'4", you get to jump at 4'6". So she's had some experience jumping at 4'6". She didn't have a plan for 4'8", right? So the meet that I first saw her, she jumped 4'4". She finally got over the hurdle and cleared 4'6", but at 4'8", the nerves got the best of her, and she actually scratched out of the competition, right? And she was in third place at that time. Like, she had a good shot to get second. My other girl that I'm working with took first, but they had a chance to go 1-2, But that pressure, she wasn't willing to go through it. But that's the pressure that she needed to get her to her goals. So even though you're a little bit nervous, that's what you need. Like me walking away from my gym, from my RBF Fitness. that was a so hard, and I've shared that story on numerous occasions, but I needed to go through that to get me right here where I am. So for people that are going through stuff, the old saying, it's cliche, keep going. Keep going, because what you want is on the other side of that pressure. Who wants to go next?
I will
Go ahead,
go.
Dawn.
I think I have. There's this meme that I've seen that I love so much, and it's like my plan, and it's like one flower, and this God's plan, and there's a whole bouquet. And so sometimes we think we want something to look a certain way or be a certain way, and then we get frustrated and upset because it didn't go the way we thought we wanted it. But maybe on the other side of that, there's something even better that our human minds can't even wrap itself around at. So no matter what I'm going through, I always tell myself that, you know what, you don't know why this is happening at this point, but show as much grace as you can, get through it, keep your calm, keep your wits about you, and just allow the process to unfold. And it's like the art of surrender. I always talk about surrendering to, I don't know why this is happening. What is this trying to teach me? What is, how is this going to make me a better person at the end of the day? And let me share this really quick. I have a friend who is currently in the hospital. He's been there for days. They were checking his heart because his heart was racing. They had to shock his heart to get it to go back to, I know he's been there since Friday, I think. But yesterday, I've been texting him every day, checking in, keeping updated. And he said, you know what, when I get out of here, I'm going to be a changed person. I said, well, maybe that's why you had to go through it. So, I wasn't going to say that to him while he's going through it, but he was the one that said, like, I'm going to be a changed person from this. And so I think we can look at everything that happens in our lives in that way. And it helps us process it better and makes the experience easier for us to accept.
So yeah, I said something similar to the woman I shared earlier, the stage 4 cancer survivor. I said something like that similar. I was like, you're presenting yourself as a victim. I said, when you're a warrior. Like, most people hear stage 4 and they start making final plans. Yeah, but you stared that in the face and you got through it. It's like, and you got better for it. It's like, and she never looked at it from that perspective. Because people hear those words and people instantly want to go straight to empathy. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you got to let the person see that there's strength in there too. The fact that this thing breaks a lot of people, but it did not break you. And so you got to take that power and you got to run with that power. All right, Portia.
Yeah, you're right. When I think back to my TV career, I was heartbroken when my TV career crumpled. But I said to myself, there's more to Portia's life than this. I remember hearing that when I was sitting in a hospital room. There's more to Portia's life than this. And I have a tattoo on my shoulder that says, don't write your ending. You are the author of your own life. And when I think to where I am today, I'm 100% grateful that I didn't stay where I was. Because I probably would have had a heart attack years ago if I would have stayed there. 10 years ago, this October was when I started my TV career, and I left in March of 17, and I haven't looked back since. But like I said in the beginning, the skills that I learned from TV, I use them today in everything that I do, from producing my shows, working with my clients. So that short little time that I was there, even though it was uncomfortable, talk about anxiety in your chest to the point that you feel like you're gonna pass out or your heart's gonna explode. I don't miss that, but at the same time, I'm grateful for what I got out of it today.
Dawn, you want to add anything?
No, I just agree with everything she said. Again, it doesn't make going through the challenges less stressful or upsetting. Well, maybe it does. It makes it a little less stressful and a little less upsetting when you can see there's a greater good and nothing is wasted. Everything you got from those experiences, Portia, taught you something. You took something away from that. So it was not for naught.
Yeah, the biggest part was the pivot. Being able to pivot. I think a lot of people today I see on social media that they're struggling to pivot with the influx of AI, with the social media algorithms, with them trying to find a job if they're already employed but they're not happy. You got to learn how to pivot. And the pivot for you looks different than the pivot for me. So yeah, it might be uncomfortable. You might have to work that janitor job for a little while until you level up to the job that you want. Dawn, me and you talk about this often, where sometimes I feel like, man, am I really successful in my business? Am I making an impact? But then I get that message from somebody who says, Portia, your episode, your interview with Latoya, your interview with Dawn was the message I needed to hear. So I said that is my reason. Because probably if I was still in that same TV station, I would never even know any of the people who were watching at all.
That's all right. Well, that wraps up episode number 11 of the Metanoia Effect. So we will be back again next Monday. And Dawn, Portia, as always, this was a solid conversation. And we'll see everyone soon.
See you guys next week. Take care.